Thank you, dear Secretary General of NATO, Mr. Jens Stoltenberg, dear representatives of national and foreign media, dear citizens. I am greatly honored to once again welcome NATO Secretary General, Mr. Jens Stoltenberg, as well as all distinguished members of the NATO delegation. At the outset, I should like to emphasize without any reservations that I consider this visit to be of key importance in giving us encouragement and support to our expectations that the year of 2018 will be a historic year for Macedonia and for the region, but for NATO and the European Union as well. In this regard, I must express our satisfaction with the renewed interest of NATO in the Western Balkans in an especially important and geostrategically sensitive period. The time has come to bring to a conclusion the integration of all countries in the region wishing to be part of the North Atlantic family. We stand ready to work together towards accomplishing this goal. Secretary General Stoltenberg and I reminded ourselves that as of 1993, when our parliament adopted the resolution for accession of the Republic of Macedonia to NATO, our country has promptly transformed itself from a security beneficiary into a reliable and compatible partner of the alliance. In the coming period, the Republic of Macedonia will continue to actively participate in the alliance peace operations around the world. Meetings with Secretary General Stoltenberg, I have underscored the support that the Republic of Macedonia has been receiving with a view to reaching standards and criteria required for NATO membership. Such standards and criteria have become our guiding benchmarks in pursuing many reform processes, such as democratic and rule of law reforms in the area of advancement of human rights and freedoms, and economic reforms. These make the foundations of the peace and stability in the world. While the imperative value to which the Republic of Macedonia has committed itself is to be a factor of the long-term stability in the region. Supported by its strategic partners, members of the alliance, the Republic of Macedonia has created conditions in which extending an invitation for NATO membership to the country could not be called into question at all. Regretfully, in 2008, the Republic of Macedonia was left in front of NATO's doors because of the problem that Greece has with our constitutional name, despite the fact that all members agreed that our country had fulfilled all required criteria. Unfortunately, immediately following that event, counterproductive political processes were activated in the Republic of Macedonia, causing the most difficult political crisis in the country as of our independence. Yet, the Republic of Macedonia, its citizens, together with democratic political communities, rose above the crisis and brought back hope. The citizens committed themselves to building a sound and strong democracy, respecting human rights and freedoms, the rule of law, economic transformation and job creation, as well as to building a cohesive society and making strategic investments. We have reinvigorated the trust in the Euro-Atlantic integration processes and in regional cooperation founded on solidarity and democratic values, these being the necessary prerequisites for long-term stability of the region and of the entire continent. We are confident that our country has earned its Euro-Atlantic perspective. Significant majority of our citizens desire our country's EU and NATO membership. On behalf of our citizens, I have assured Secretary General Stoltenberg that the Republic of Macedonia will always make a positive contribution to all initiatives designed to bring more comprehensive and advanced cooperation in the region. The government of the Republic of Macedonia works to create conditions for building a national consensus with all key and decisive political actors, with the president of the country, the opposition, with the aim of accelerating and completing our integration into NATO. We are strongly committed to implementing domestic reforms which advance and strengthen our democracy in order that we remain aligned with the political criteria required for NATO membership. We have increased the defense budget, and we have strong political will to continue increasing the defense budget by 0.2% of the GDP each year, being committed at the same time to remaining active contributors to peace missions. it is with great dedication that we invest efforts in creating climate favorable to overcoming the problem that Greece has with the name of our country. I believe we have created the momentum in order that we settle this issue. We sincerely expect that the Republic of Macedonia will become the 30th member of the alliance. We work to reach this goal together with our partners. These are the perspectives for the citizens of Macedonia and for the citizens of the region.
Stoltenberg, повелете.
Prime Minister Zaev, my friend Zoran, it's really great to see you again after your visit last year to Brussels. Then it's great to see you here in Skopje. This is my first visit, and I thank you for hosting me and my delegation. It has been an excellent visit where we have very fruitful and constructive discussions addressing many important issues, but especially addressing the future of your country and your ambitions to join the alliance. It was also a great privilege for me to address the Parliament today, especially after the dramatic events last year. Since then, since the dramatic events last year, your country has made significant efforts and significant progress towards long-term political stability. And I commend you for your leadership and your determination under difficult circumstances, and for your strong commitment to bring about positive change. NATO will continue to support your country's efforts. Let me also thank you for continuing contributions to NATO's training mission in Afghanistan, and for the increase in troop numbers you have announced. This is a clear sign of your commitment to international security, and we are grateful for your strong commitment to NATO and to our international operations. Prime Minister, we have just had excellent and very constructive discussions about your country's future. I commend the efforts being made to find a solution to the name issue. The discussions show the value of dialogue. Agreement on this issue is crucial for your country to join NATO. The reforms you are working on are also important. Good governance, strengthening the rule of law, building an open, multi-ethnic society, and good neighbourly relationships. I know your country faces challenges, and reform is not easy, but it can be done. So I urge all parties to work constructively in the interest of all your people. And I urge the government to reach out constructively to the opposition and vice versa. These reforms are essential. I encourage you to continue on the path of reform. We want you to succeed. Joining the NATO alliance requires hard work and commitment. But NATO's door remains open. Last year, we welcomed Montenegro into the NATO family, our 29th member. For more than 2 decades, NATO has invested in the security and the stability of the Western Balkans. And the region has made significant progress since the 1990s. We support your Euro-Atlantic aspirations because we want to see your country at the heart of a stable, democratic and prosperous region. Prime Minister, once again, I commend you for your efforts, and I look forward to continuing our work together to support your democratic reforms and your country's efforts to join NATO. Thank you.
Почитувани колеги, имаме 10 минути за новинарски прашања. We have 10 minutes for the journalist question. We will start with the gentleman behind, Adriano. And please tell to whom you refer the question.
I would like to ask you, if we don't have any kind of progress in the negotiations concerning the name issue, can you exclude that your country could be a member of NATO with a temporary name?
I can exclude that. There is no other way to join NATO without solving the name issue. And that has been clearly stated several times. It was first stated at the summit in 2008 in Bucharest. I was there as Norwegian Prime Minister. Then it was reiterated at our NATO summit in Wales in 2014, and once again at the NATO summit in Warsaw in 2016. So there is no plan B, no other way of joining NATO than through solving the name issue. But allies have agreed that NATO will invite your country to join the alliance once a mutual acceptable solution to the name issue has been reached within the framework of the UN. And therefore we support the efforts to find a solution. We welcome the momentum we see. We welcome the fact that there is a willingness both in Skopje and in Athens to try to find a solution, and we also welcome the strong focus on reforms. And allies will also consider and look into the reforms, because rule of law, good governance, freedom of media are core values for the alliance. Our Washington Treaty is based on some core values: democracy, rule of law and individual liberty.
Господин Željko Šajn.
Željko Šajn, politika. Ve molim, da li možemo da dobijemo kratka ocenka?
Can you give us a brief assessment of the military, political, security situation in the region if we take into consideration the events, the latest developments in Kosovo, if we take into consideration the U.S. announcements about the possible terrorist attacks, etc. The question is for both speakers.
Добре, аз лично верувам дека регионот е стабилен.
I personally believe that the region is stable. We of course condemn the events in Kosovo. Our region is not a cake of powder. Our region is building friendship, and our messages of friendship reach everybody. And I'm convinced that we will continue along this path of building friendship, because the stability of the region is of key importance. I am in contact with the political leadership of the countries in the region, and all countries in the region are investing maximum efforts in order that we accelerate our Euro-Atlantic integration, to enhance regional cooperation, to enhance the trust of our citizens, of our business persons, to invest in the regional countries. And I'm confident that these isolated incidents will not bring permanent consequences for the perspectives of the region. I hope that those responsible will be brought to justice, and that we will prevent impunity.
NATO remains fully committed to the stability of this region, and NATO has been actively involved in efforts to keep this region stable and to prevent wars. We have to remember that after the end of the Cold War, NATO helped to end 2 ethnic conflicts in this region, in Bosnia-Herzegovina and in Kosovo, Serbia, and we also actually had troops and operations here in this nation in 2001 and 2002. So NATO has played historically an important role in stabilizing the whole region. We still have presence in Kosovo. We have our KFOR force in Kosovo. We have presence in Sarajevo. We have presence in Skopje. And we have several members in the region Croatia and Slovenia, but we also have Montenegro as our newest member, together with Albania, which has been member for some years. So NATO is present in the region, and we continue to work with our partners in the region, with the aspirant countries in the region, to continue to stabilize this region. And we are inspired by the progress we see in this country, because you are making progress. You are making progress on the reforms. You have been able to turn away from the political crisis you faced last year, and now you have created stability. You are moving in the right direction, and you are implementing reforms which are highly recognized and valued by all NATO allies. So you have really turned a corner, and you're moving in the right direction. That encourages us. Then, of course, there are also developments and some aspects with or by the situation in this region which gives reasons for concern. We continue to be present with a significant military force in Kosovo, with the KFOR force there, and of course the killing of Oliver Ivanovic was really something that was an example of that the situation in Kosovo is not yet where we would like it to be. And therefore NATO strongly condemns the killing of Mr. Ivanovic. We think it is extremely important that those responsible for the killing are held accountable, and that both parties show calm and restraint, and NATO will continue to stay there with our KFOR force to protect all the people of Kosovo. So NATO is here in this region. We work with our partners, we have members to help to continue to stabilize this region.
Sead Rizanović, Televizija 24.
Да, имам прашање.
I have a question for Mr. Stoltenberg. You said there is no plan B for accession of Macedonia to NATO unless the name issue is resolved. However, the situation in geopolitical, geostrategic terms have changed as of the NATO summit in 2008, and you yourself have emphasized the role of Russia and its expansionist policy. For example, Moscow directly intervened in Montenegro, and Moscow has openly stated its objection to Macedonia becoming a member of NATO. You, as the Secretary General of NATO, cannot adopt such a decision, but do you think that perhaps the member states could revise their strategy for entry of Macedonia into NATO, because our country has done everything possible in order to become part of NATO?
No, I don't think so. And I think it's important to be honest with you, because I think it is important to be ambitious, and I'm encouraged by the determination, by the strong efforts of your country to move towards membership, and you are really making a lot of progress, and that is encouraging, and I commend you for that. At the same time, it is important to be realistic, and therefore it is important to recognize and to see that NATO is an alliance which bases all its decisions on consensus, meaning that as long as one nation blocks a decision, there will be no decision. And therefore, I think it will only make your efforts more difficult and less likely that you will be able to join if you base your efforts on a false assumption that it's possible to join NATO without solving the name issue. That has been clearly stated by the alliance again and again. I really hope that you are able to solve the name issue. I really welcome the renewed momentum, the renewed efforts, and of course it is necessary to see flexibility, and to have a pragmatic approach. It's not for NATO to solve the name issue. This is an effort by this nation and Greece, and it is a UN-led or a UN-facilitated process. So NATO will not go into the concrete proposals, the concrete ways to solve the name issue, but I think you will only postpone and reduce the possibilities of joining if you think there is a plan B, because there is no plan B.
Последното прашање, the last question, Искра.
Искра Коровишовска, Алфа телевизија. Прашањето е до генералниот.
My question is for the Secretary General. Mr. Stoltenberg, why does NATO ignore the decision of the Hague Tribunal, of the Hague Court, and ignoring this ruling of the International Court, isn't that a violation of international law?
Well, that is a ruling by a court, but this is a political decision. And of course, a political alliance, as NATO, has the mandate, the possibility to make the political decisions we want to make as an alliance. And as I said, NATO is based on consensus. So to change a decision, to make a new decision, requires the agreement, requires unanimous support from all allies. And I think I would not be honest with you if I indicated that it was a possibility to circumvent or to avoid the name issue. The ruling in Hague is a legal ruling, but this is, at the end of the day, a political issue which has a political decision made by NATO at several summits. And again, we are 29 allies. The good thing is that all allies have the same rights, the same responsibilities. They have a seat at the table, but it requires that all allies also agree. And therefore, I think it will be wrong to indicate that there is any possibility to move towards membership without solving the name issue.
Со овој одговор ја затвараме пресконференцијата. Ви благодарам на сите на вниманието.
Thus we conclude the press conference. Thank you all.
Good friends. My hero.